Good evening. My name is Ashok Kamath. I'm the secretary of the IIT Alumni Center here in Bengaluru. And as many of you know, we've been doing these webinars almost religiously, I would like to say, since April of 2020, when the first lockdowns started to happen. And we are somewhat overwhelmed with the response. We've had more than 30,000 viewers who have seen us live on the webinars, and also a significant number on the YouTube, IITACB channel on YouTube, where you can go and watch all of our webinars from the past. Because of the depth of the IITs, we've had a very diverse range of topics. In fact, Professor Kamakoti, your predecessor, Bhaskar, talked about the BTech, BSc program in data sciences that you have on one of your slides.
Yes.
And that was a full-fledged program just on that. So we've had interesting topics. Today is also going to be an interesting one. Very clearly, in India, we have made our aspirations known to become. The number used to be $3 trillion economy, but I'm now seeing in many places a $5 trillion economy being talked about. And if really we have to reach that aspirational level, then it requires us to be self-reliant in many ways. And therefore, the Aatmanirbhar concept and campaign, if you will, started to happen in a big way. And there is clearly a role for education and research that will make a big difference for us as we move forward. Arguably, one could look at areas like 5G, 6G, and beyond in terms of wireless technologies. Could look at artificial intelligence and machine learning in its various applications that come from agriculture, healthcare, education, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. So a lot of the newer technologies which can tend to have significant disruptive efforts. And we clearly we have to use the word, we have the chops in this country. And I think we need to be able to leverage it to become a dominant player by looking at it not just from a near term, but from a 10, 15, 20-year horizon, so that we are really Aatmanirbhar, in spirit and action over the next, between now and say 15 years from now. And we have an interesting speaker today, Professor Kamakoti, the current director of IIT Madras. Is himself a graduate both at the master's and the PhD levels from IIT Madras, and has been in the computer architecture, information security, those kind of areas where he has been exposed to, I think, all of the things that we like to talk about today, especially in Bangalore, all the application that you want to talk about. And so he's been in the he's, of course, very familiar with the VLSI. He's familiar with artificial intelligence. He's been on the task force constituted by the Ministry of Commerce for that. And of course, he's an accomplished scholar with many masters and PhD students that he's guided and delivered good projects. And several awards, all of which has been listed in the short bio that we sent off him when we announced this. So welcome, Professor Kamakoti, for this program. Mr. Krishnamurthy is going to be the moderator. Again, very checkered history. Bharat Electronics, National Semiconductor, Texas Instruments, and Rambus. I think he was wearing a Rambus t-shirt. I'm not sure he's hiding it right now. But has been in VLSI for the longest time. Currently, the president and CEO of the IESA. And, again, lots of credits to him. First ASIC that was mass-produced in this country was designed by Krishnamurthy. So there's lots of accomplishments on him as well. So without too much more talking about individuals, let's listen to them We have a few house rules. Number one is if you have questions, please put it in the Q&A box, not on the chat box. The Q&A box, that is the one that tends to get monitored all the time. So please use the Q&A box. Second, in the past, we've noticed people have a tendency to ask a question saying, do we get a certificate for attending this? You don't. So, so that's not there. So, don't even bother asking that. And with that, Professor Kamakoti, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Are my slides visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Your
yes.
slides are visible.
So shall I start? So how much time I have? How much time I have?
Sir, I would suggest that you speak for 30 minutes. We'll take a break and ask some questions, and then you speak for another 30 minutes and then conclude.
Okay. So okay, sure. Thanks, and thank you for this excellent opportunity. I thought that now that we are in a cusp of, a transformation, what had happened in the, as we are celebrating our 75th year of independence, and the COVID together had made us realize that, yes, we are socially independent, but far away from technology independence. There is a necessity for us to develop certain critical technologies which are going to be not only for strategic interest, but also for civilian interest. And unless we develop these technologies in the next 25 years to come, 2047 may not be a very Thanksgiving year for us. And so there is a very, very, I may say, an urgent need to kickstart many efforts which will lead to Aatmanirbhar technologies, that one need for sustenance, one need for self-sufficiency, one need for handling contingencies, and many, many things that we need that for, and we need to work towards that. So given this sort of what I may say as a polite warning, which COVID has basically made us realize that warning, wherein there was a vaccine that was done across the world, and when it was working at 8 degrees centigrade, it was stopped. And when we had to bring it to India, we could not have effectively administered because it was not suiting our local condition. We don't blame the person who stopped making that vaccine beyond 8 degrees centigrade, because that's what their country needs. That also implies that we need to work for our country needs. And especially on these critical technologies. And unless we do it in this Amrit Kaal of 25 years, by 2047, we should be extremely stubbornly self-sufficient about many of these technologies that are critical. The critical word needs a definition here. The critical word essentially means that we need to be stubbornly self-sufficient. I repeatedly use this word with the adjective on things that we need on a day-to-day life, things that we need to manage disasters, things that we need to manage contingencies, in addition to strategic interest. So what I've just done here in today's talk, where are we in terms of this? Is there some efforts that are happening? I'm also very happy on the other note to tell you that we are really progressing well, and there are a lot of basic building blocks that have come up in the country from the education and research perspective in these emerging and disruptive technologies. We'll see a semblance of it. I've taken inputs from all the institutes, the logo of them I've put here, from which I've taken some very interesting inputs on some of these emerging and disruptive technologies, research that is done, products that are being done, and what impact it would have on our nation 25 years down the line, and what sort of research are being pursued and what should be pursued. There is some ideas that we get when we look at these institutions and what they have done. I thought this is a very opportune moment for me to represent our country, our higher education institutions to this August forum and basically impress upon you that we have a good start. I don't know how many industry people are listening to this. This is the time for the industry to have Atma Vishwas on our institutions, to put a lot more confidence that we can do and come forward and collaborate with us and take these technologies forward. Unless we do it together, I think we don't have anything that we can relish 25 years down the line. So this togetherness, cohesive working, trust on each other, and the belief that we can complete, we can do. These are some basic prerequisite for us to build technology independent Bharat. With these very important thoughts, I start my presentation. What I'm going to do is to talk about two important emerging and disruptive areas where emerging and disruptive technologies are coming up. And what is it that is happening across different institutes in our country. And this, I believe, is a sort of, I'm sure, will bring in some amount of confidence among ourselves and also our trusted industry partners to start building an ecosystem that will make India stubbornly self-sufficient in these technologies. With these words, let me start my presentation. This is, you may have seen this in every other presentation, but just for the sake of completeness, I must tell you that we are in Industry 4.0. The first Industry 1.0 was on mechanization, water, power, steam power, etc., water power and steam power, etc. The second Industry 2.0 is on mass production, assembly line, basically driven by electricity and the notion of a pipeline assembly line. Industry 3.0 was more about computer and automation, with a lot of influence on the banking industry, core banking, etc. The Industry 4.0 today, we are talking about what we call as cyber-physical systems. These are small to big systems that are connected together through the internet or a network, a communication network. The Industry 4.0, we believe, is going to be powered by a combination of disruptive and emerging technologies that will ultimately, hopefully, lead to a transformative impact on the societies and economies. Now, let us now first start talking about cyber-physical systems. Now, this education, research, development in cyber-physical system can be viewed in whatever we call as three horizontals. The horizontal number one are the basic building blocks. When I want to evolve a cyber-physical system, which is going to be sort of the major interface between multiple people, the major interface between a society of people, we need to have three verticals. The first vertical are the basic building blocks. The basic building blocks are, first and foremost, high-speed internet access and mobility. We are talking of 4G, 5G, etc. The second one is a lot of high-performance computing, not only high-performance computing at the cloud, but high-performance computing at different places. Even we are looking at a lot more of computation at the edge. Then a lot of sensors are to be involved, which are the measurement and monitoring devices. And we call these systems as Internet of Things, the IoT, and embedded systems, which basically does specific domain-specific functionality for different areas. So the third one is that there's a lot of need for energy, power to implement such systems. So we are looking at renewable energy sources And also specifically for the sensor and many other devices that will be part of this cyber physical world, we need to have research in advanced materials. For example, today phase change materials are becoming very important. Phase change materials are those which can basically store the energy and during daytime got out of a solar panel and use that to serve a particular product or particular installation during the night. So there are many research going on in advanced materials. And then the last one is about 3D, 4D printing. And we also need cloud technologies in a big way. So these are all the basic building blocks, and a lot of research are going on in these areas. A lot of education is happening, capacity building is happening, and some of those I will elaborate as we proceed further. Based on these basic building blocks, a lot of emerging techniques are coming up. Of these, AI needs very less introduction. I'm sure all of you know what is AI's contribution to this entire world today. Data science becomes extremely important because data science feeds the AI engines, especially the supervised learning, essentially depends upon good data. Simulation and modeling becomes extremely important for designing such systems. Today, lot of security vulnerabilities exist today. And when we have this cyber physical systems, we need to build secure systems. And then very importantly, to meet the needs, we need to have very intelligent manufacturing techniques powered by the basic building blocks like 3D printers. I'll give you case studies as I proceed on this lecture on what are these intelligent, what is the need for such type of intelligent manufacturing. On top of these emerging techniques are many areas. The National Mission on Cyber Physical Systems have identified around 25 verticals. I put some 5 verticals here just for the sake of completion. Agriculture is something very close to heart for many of us, and that is something that we look at. Then fintech is an area. Logistics, supply chain. This is another area which is going to be extremely impacted because of cyber physical systems, healthcare, and of course the space technologies. So these are all some sample application areas where we need of these cyber physical systems. So there needs to be manpower development, human resource or capacity building in each of these horizontals. And there must also be a strong research that's happening. A research that is happening very close to the industry requirement. And industry must participate in all these research and academic curriculum so that jointly we can bring in Aatmanirbhar solutions for the huge set of application areas using efficient basic building blocks and emerging techniques. So this is how I have organized so what I'm going to talk out next is for these emerging techniques and basic building blocks and the applications that we are talking of, what sort of education is happening in the HEIs, the higher education institutions in our country, and giving very specific examples for the benefit of the audience. And I'm also going to talk about some of the high-end research that are happening here. Now let us have, I always with pride talk about this. Maybe people who have listened to me may be slightly boring. I apologize for that, but this is something which is India's pride. This whole software was developed in 21 days by a bunch of 30 people. And this is Arogya Setu, and this also is an example of a perfect cyber physical system. Let me just tell you how Arogya Setu works. I hope all of you have used it. And if the 100 crore people in our country have really used this system, at least the 40 crore plus who have smartphones could have used this system. In my opinion, we could have controlled COVID much better. Anyway, now given this, how does Arogya Setu work? Arogya Setu, pride of India, actually works as follows. If two persons A and B have installed Arogya Setu and they keep the Bluetooth on and come in close proximity to each other, the device ID of A gets stored in B and vice versa. In the event of A testing positive, all the details in his mobile are copied in a secured fashion to cloud and processed to find out who should be warned or notified. Since B's device ID is stored in A, B will also be warned to go and test himself or herself. And this is how contact tracing started happening. And this is used by over 19.5 crore users now. The Arogya Setu actually has also become a certificate generation for your vaccine. Imagine 140 crore people getting vaccine and each two shots. I think we have just 200 crores now of shots. I think all this has been highly systematized and we are winning this. So this whole thing involves sensors, local aggregators, a data transmission to the cloud and processing by the cloud. This is an example of a cyber physical system. So these are sensor. The sensor here is the Bluetooth. There's a local aggregator, which is the mobile phone, which is holding the sensor. And then it is transmitting the data to the cloud. And then there is a processing that's happening at the cloud for decision making. Now, this involved electronics engineers who understood the Bluetooth protocol, embedded system developers, application developers, cloud developers, secure communication and cryptographers, epidemiologists who characterize the sensor between closeness and the type of propagation of the disease of the virus. So we had epidemiologists in the team. And we also had lawyers in the team who's talking about security and privacy. So this is a perfect example, a perfect interdisciplinary example of building a system that worked, continues to work, and that which has been done over less than a month's time by around 30 engineers. So this is something which India as a country has a potential to do. And as we go ahead with Industry 4.0, we will need many such cyber physical systems. But this gives a very, very positive impact on all of us, that as a country, we are really in a poise to make such beautiful systems that work. Now, just looking at this example, the big picture that we want here as a country is that we want to bring a unity in this diversity. Arogya Setu is a cyber physical system. We will have other, say, surveillance camera is also a cyber physical system. The type of sensors used there, the type of sensors used here, the type of communication that is happening, the amount of data that is being transmitted, the type of edge computing aggregation that is used, the privacy clause there, the objective of what we are trying to do, the type of image processing that needs to be done on the cloud in both cases, the type of processing that needs to be done, all are different. So there is a diversity. But then there is a unity because both are sensors, aggregators, communication, both have sensors, aggregators, communication, and a decision to be made at the cloud. Both things are common if I use a surveillance camera versus Arogya Setu. But what we do here, the intentions, there are a lot of diversity. So we need a unity in diversity to actually comprehensively address the notion of cyber physical system. And that itself is going to take our country to a great height. So what we need is a single window interdisciplinary platform specializing on sensor manufacturing, sensor testing and characterization, sensor interfacing with control systems, establishing command and control through actuators, networking the sensor to the aggregators, secure that data transmission to the cloud, and decision support systems on the cloud. Right? All these things are needed as a single window platform, so that anybody who wants to plug any sensor, any type of aggregator, any communication, any sort of decision, there is a basic fabric that on which you need to plug and play different softwares and hardware combinations and devices so that you build a system. So when we look at education and research in emerging and disruptive technologies, we must focus on such type of unity in diversity platforms. With this as a background, let me go to the next important thing. As you would have seen, many of you would have noted that the Indian Institute of Science, IIT Kanpur, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Guwahati are all starting Department of Medical Sciences at the IITs. And if you look at the objectives of this, they want to develop a world-class research environment for medical sciences and develop well-trained what we may call as physician scientists. These are doctor with engineering experience or engineer with medical experience. IIT Madras is also going to very shortly build one such school. Now, why do we need this? Now, let us look at what's happening at the other parts of the world. People who complete MBBS course or a medical course and also do an engineering course, they are collectively called as physician scientists. And these physician scientists have been traditionally the bridge between medicine and science, or medicine and engineering. So these are the people who tie the bench and the bedside. And these are the people who are trained to conduct independent scientific investigation in the laboratory, clinic, health services, population health, community engagement, and health equity. 37% of Nobel Prize winners are physician scientists, people with doctorate and engineering knowledge. And in the pharma industry in US, 70% of the chief scientific officers are top 10 pharma companies. At top 10 pharma companies are physician scientists. In the developed world for the last 60 plus years, 100 such programs are being run. We are not running a single program as of now to this level. And very interestingly, most faculty appointments in the US medical schools are also from this pool. So this sort of talks about the importance of a physician scientist and the job potential he or she can have once he finishes such a course. So what we plan is to give a PhD, admit MBBS students. What many of the IITs and the IISc plan is to actually provide a research opportunity for an MBBS or an MD, so that they get an MBBS PhD or an MD PhD degree. And by getting a PhD degree from a technical institution, having studied medical, would be called a physician scientist, as I mentioned earlier, and they become the driving force behind the mechanistic understanding of the diseases, the development of therapies, devices, and technologies. Today, there is a heavy dependence on imports of medical devices. I'm told that when you go to a dentist and you open your mouth, to keep your mouth open, they put a stick between the top and the bottom jaw. That stick also is imported. So there is a need to revitalize the medical device industry in our country. In addition, we have this India-specific research, specifically on non-communicable diseases. We are the largest incidence our population is much exposed to these non-communicable diseases. So we need to look at India-specific research. In addition, the physician scientists are those who work on these policy guidelines, FDA approvals. Suppose I want to approve a device, what it means to approve that device, treatment and recovery time of a patient. All these things are basically influenced by the work of physician scientists. And these are the people who got this causal relationship. What causes what? Sugar causes diabetes. Smoking causes cancer. So this causal relationship is something that the physician scientists have basically got. So overall, there is a need for physician scientists in our country, not only for self-sufficiency, but also to understand that we have a dependence on on imports of medical devices, and that need to be addressed. Right? That needs to be, we need to reduce the import, and we need to start working on non-communicable diseases. And then we also start be a respectable proponent from India on the many of these policy guidelines that govern the medical policy of different countries. So this is the need for such type of MD, PhD people. Now I will just spend the next, so you may just stop me if I'm touching 30 minutes. Krishnamurthy sir?
Sure, maybe another 5 minutes and then we can take a break. You're almost...
Right. So I'll just touch upon the education initiatives in the next 5 minutes. All of you would have seen many of you would have gone through an engineering course. The first year you might be doing workshop, late, etc. Today, the type of courses that are introduced, specifically I appreciate IIT Bhilai have come out with. In the first semester, they are having a course on 3D modeling, 3D printing, laser processing. These are all for first semester. I think that's a very big move and a very interesting move. Similarly, there are a lot of BTech, MTech and PhD programs in data science and AI, mechatronics, electric vehicles and technology. And these are offered by multiple IITs across. Then what you see on the right-hand side is a set of interdisciplinary postgraduate programs. We have opened 9 of them, or you can see on the screen, but there's one more, which is quantitative finance, which we are going to launch from July 2023. So totally we have 10 courses that we are offering as an interdisciplinary MTech program. What is interdisciplinary? Every program you take will involve faculty from 4 or 5 departments. So a foreign student can directly get admitted into this postgraduate program. An undergraduate student, like how they got converted to MTech for the dual degree programs, they can basically now come and join this program. Okay. So what does this, this touches every important aspect of Industry 4.0, as you see, whatever you're seeing on the right-hand side. And that is going to be extremely important for the nation. So we are developing human capacity which can address comprehensively systems built through these type of programs. Then there are a lot of courses that are offered. Some of these courses on by IIT Hyderabad, which are unique interdisciplinary MTech programs such as additive manufacturing, climate change, e-waste resource engineering and management, smart mobility, etc. So as you see, these are courses that are much more aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals 1 to 17 proposed by UN on sustainability. Right? So many of these courses also have a link or impact on understanding of the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals 1 to 17. In addition, there is also a very strong interface between management sciences and the engineering, humanities and the engineering. As already you saw, I just go back to the previous slide. You are seeing a course on, the next slide, you will be seeing a course on digital humanities, as you see here. So this is a very interesting course, MS in Data Science and Management between IIT Indore and IIM Indore, two sister institutions joining together. So these are the set of new type of courses that are coming into play. I'll just stop with this particular slide. And then there are joint masters and PhD in medical technology between IIT Jodhpur and AIIMS Jodhpur. IIT Madras is offering a MTech in clinical engineering with 3 institutions, IIT Madras, the Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Sciences, Trivandrum, and the Christian Medical College. There are very interesting other programs that you see, which you would not have seen as an elective so far, which has just come up because of the industry need today and the interdisciplinary way the industry is moving, like robotics and mobility systems, mathematical and computational economics, brain science, digital humanities. These are all some new programs that are envisioned in the next 2 years. The last before I wind up is the BSc Data Science and Programming at IIT Madras, wherein we have now created a course that doesn't have an age bar. Father and son are taking the course, son gets more marks than father, that's different. So we have anywhere between 17 to 67, that's the age. And people, because of this no age bar, people who are already working professionals can come and take this course and reskill themselves. UGC has now given a very interesting order that says that a person can do 2 courses in parallel, provided one does not interfere with the other. And I think that is also something which the BSc Data Science and Programming can do. And then there is this web-enabled mode. You can sit at home and do. And we have admitted 12,500 in the first year. Now, and this also has multiple exit options. If you finish in the first year courses, you get a certificate. Second year, you get diploma. Third year, you get BSc 3-year degree, equivalent to 3-year of degree of any university, UG degree of any university in India. And if you do the 4 years, you get a BS degree in data science, which is equivalent to a 4-year undergraduate program. So all these things are possible with multiple exit options. And you could have slow place. You need not finish the second year in second year. You can take little more time, reasonably large amount of time to finish to enable slow paced completion. I think these are all some of the unique characteristics of this BSc Data Science and Programming course, about which my predecessor, Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy, actually had given an interesting talk in this forum. I just stop with this for a quick break, and then I hand over to Krishnamurthy sir. Hello.
Thank you very much, sir, for the wide-ranging topics that you covered in such a short time. Before I say anything from what you have covered, there are a few questions or few suggestions that have come up on the Q&A box. I will just try to. One of them was very admin type, like whether we will get a recording of this. I think that's definitely going to be there. Sushila already mentioned that it will be recorded and posted. Mr. Mahendra Pratap's observation is that we need to develop products using technology. Unless we develop products, developing technology does not make sense. I think the first part of what Professor talked about is underlying technologies and the applications vertical on top of the technology layers. I think that's precisely what the country is now moving towards. And then there is a requirement to know, is there a portal or a place where one can read about what's being worked in these institutions? I'm an investor who would want to look into what's available. How do I get access to that information? I'm sure Dr. Sushila will have a link that can be shared to all the participants of this. And then there is something related to MSMEs, probably not very relevant to what was being talked about, but there are certain disabilities, MSME industries and constraints that they have in getting resources and cash flow, etc. But I think that's slightly outside the boundaries of this conversation that we have. And The other one is, of course, I anticipated the Shakti processor is the first homegrown processor, and IITM has developed the SoC with the processor. How come a new entrepreneur make use of this, and what possibilities exist for develop manufacturing these SoCs for India-specific needs and become more Aatmanirbhar? I think the semiconductor policy announced on 2021, December 15th, is primarily kickstarting this very activity of manufacturing semiconductor products, which includes SoCs, and definitely Shakti processor will definitely be part of that activity, manufacturing activity. But for the benefit of those who are familiar with the Shakti processor progress so far, I think we had already seen a few variants of Shakti processor available today in the chip form in different process nodes and speed grades. And multi-core processors are in the making at the moment. A few startups have spun out of IIT's Shakti processor development, which I would say has been a commendable achievement, which came out of IIT Madras under Professor Kamakoti's leadership. And for those of you who do not know, Professor Kamakoti is the Chief Technology Officer for the RISC-V program of India, appointed by Government of India Ministry of Electronics. I don't exactly remember the title, but it is, I think, the Chief Technology Officer. And India also has a seat in the RISC forum, international forum today, because of the efforts by Professor Kamakoti and his team in bringing out multiple flavors of the processor architecture. And CDAC has developed what you call the Vega processor using this architecture, and they have industry-ready deployable SoCs which can be manufactured and used. And it won't be too far from now when I believe we will start seeing products coming out in the market, real products coming out in the market with Indian processors and SoCs. I mean, that aside, I think the importance of multidisciplinary research, what Professor Kamakoti brought out. You take the example of a data fabric or a cybersecurity mesh or autonomic systems. You take any one of them, or AI engineering or data science, and the levels of automation that's getting talked about today, I think every one of them will be multidisciplinary in nature. There's no doubt about it. And more importantly, I would say today morning I was in a big hospital, Apollo Hospital in Bangalore, and I could count maybe 20, 30 devices as I walked along the corridor. All of the medical devices which are multidisciplinary in nature. It has mechanical engineering, mechatronics, optics, electronics, embedded systems. Every single branch of modern engineering has gone into building those devices. So building platforms, homogeneous or heterogeneous platforms, I believe will be definitely a great initiative this country can put together. But coming to the 5 different applications which Professor Kamakoti talked about, agriculture and healthcare being 2 of them, I think that summarizes where the priorities of this country need to be. And then, of course, defense and space automatically comes in as strategic segments that need to be addressed. But energy self-reliance, agricultural self-reliance or food security, healthcare self-reliance, if we can address these 3 and then put sufficient money into defense and space, I think India will be considered as a developed nation by 2047 for sure. There are a couple of other questions related to multidisciplinary. In the multidisciplinary degree, is there a limit to number of specializations or disciplines? I think these are all questions probably you will find answers in the next part of this talk by Professor, or it will definitely be available in the web pages. And the technology industries today have not still mastered, at least in India, they have not mastered the art of multidisciplinary research. I think they are still very linear in nature. The non-linearity that is required in multidisciplinary research and product development is an area which probably the initiatives like this, what Professor is talking about, will kickstart in the country. I don't want to take more time. I think I've taken more than 5 minutes. So let me hand back to Professor Kamakoti for continuing the presentation, and we'll come back at the end for more discussions and taking more questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Humanities sir. So that has been a very quick answer. So the effort taken by the government of India is called Digital India RISC-V DIRV effort, and I'm a chief architect there. And what we are envisaging is that within the next 1 to 1.5 years, we will have several applications that will be taken up. We'll be producing chips that can suit many applications. We'll be producing domain-specific architectures that will be suiting multiple applications, and that we are confident, and I'm sure with all your good wishes, we'll go forward. So with this, yes, one of the very interesting, one of the questions did mention that we need to look for products and not just research, and that is what I'm going to do as the next part of this presentation as a logical continuation. Yes, we are having new type of courses unheard of in the last decade, and that's the biggest change that has happened in the curriculum, wherein we not only one, but I've given multiple examples across the country where people have realized the need for change, need for interdisciplinary education, and people have brought in such wonderful electives, which are actually, I also saw the question, how many is in multidisciplinary degrees there a limit on the number of specializations or disciplines? Absolutely not. We have certain projects that involve 7 disciplines. No, it's not just new. If you look at any of the atomic energy or space type of projects, you'll at least have 3-4 departments. But then there are courses which involve people from multiple more disciplines. And for example, the Arogya Setu I mentioned, already there are 6 to 7 disciplines there. And they are not necessarily engineering. They can be spread across engineering, medicine, and legal. Right. So with this basic introduction, let me just project some sample research initiatives that are happening in the area of cyber-physical systems, those areas that we mentioned, the basic building blocks, the emerging areas, and of course the application areas, and then also look at some very important pertinent issues in that. So starting with the research areas, one of the things that are getting frequently mentioned is the quantum device. And these are some examples from IIT Delhi, IIT Goa, and many IITs and IISc. IIT Delhi has now designed an indigenous secure key transfer technology for bootstrapping military-grade communication in collaboration with DRDO. Okay. Right? This is done by IIT Delhi faculty along with DRDO, Government of India. So this is something very, very interesting. So this is quantum key distribution between 2 cities that are 100 kilometers apart. So a lot of this has been done by many countries, and then we are now in the path of specializing this or modifying this and running this. The next thing that you see on the right-hand side are quantum device development, right? And I want to make a quantum computer, I need to have these type of devices. So there is a dedicated effort on quantum device development. And this is actually carried out by IIT Goa. Then in addition, we have a lot of crypto work because security becomes extremely important. One on post-quantum cryptography and quantum communications also. So IITs and IISc jointly work. So if you just take quantum sciences, we already see some 4 or 5 IITs and IISc in which at least, basically looking at product-oriented research. So all that we are seeing of is basically some set of a product that can give us good benefits. Now, on the health side, especially during COVID times, several high-end research has been happening, which again, as I mentioned, are product-oriented research. The GLAD thing that you see on the left-hand side is it can detect dengue virus and HIV in 1 hour. Today, dengue virus, if you want to test, it takes multiple hours, but it can reduce it to just 1 hour where they can go and detect dengue virus. This was developed by IIT Delhi. The next thing was, of course, what you see on the right-hand side. Again, it's an IIT Delhi product. It was a first ever point of care device. This is actually patented, which detects gram-specific bacterial biomarkers in human plasma just under 10 minutes. And this is very much useful for neonatal sepsis. It's something which is a drastic killing disease if not handled very quickly. And this gives you a less than 10-minute type of a solution. Lot of work has been happening on IITACB, which is the technology innovation for Indian medicine system. Indian medicine systems work, but the Indian medicine system has to be shown to the outside world based on a scientific basis on why it is working. And these efforts basically will lead to scientific explanation of why certain diseases are, why certain medicines are working for some diseases. Specifically on the IITACB area. Now, this is an IIT Bombay effort where, from an exorbitant cost of 5 crore per patient, we can reduce it to 10 to 15 lakhs per patient. This is a unique, first in India, patented thing in collaboration with National Cancer Institute, USA, and PMX Mumbai. So this is something which is licensed. And a startup is created and they have raised around 9 million USD. And this is therapy to cure cancer. And as India ranks second in global cancer mortality, this is a very interesting product that has come out of the research from IIT Bombay. With Corona, there were a lot of low-cost ventilators that were needed. IIT Hyderabad has provided a low-cost ventilator. And then a lot of smart healthcare involving AI and stuff has happened. So the AI for disease diagnosis happens almost in all IITs and IISc and many higher education institutions. And portable health devices are there for neonatal ICU, smart miniature cameras for endoscopy imaging techniques. These are all portable health devices. And there is an effort by IIT Jodhpur again on drug discovery and treatment protocols for rare diseases like muscular dystrophy. Then there are also some very interesting antiviral fabric that has been developed by IIT Delhi as a part of medical textile. This is called Fabium, which destroys 99.9% of the virus within 30 minutes. And large-scale manufacturing with industrial partners is happening. So these are very interesting products that have come out. Especially in Corona, when the big congestion happens and then breathing problem happens, the device that is prepared by IIT Kanpur will be a preventive measure to avoid ventilator-associated pneumonia. It can actually, it's for secretion drainage device. Very interesting device. And what you see on the remaining 3 in the slides are more about drugs. Right? So IIT Mandi has identified a new molecule PK2 for treatment of diabetes. This can lead to new drugs which have oral delivery rather than injection. Itself is a very important thing. And these drugs can be stored at room temperature and very cost effective. Today, diabetes medicine, as I see, when I start talking to some of our retired people who unfortunately have diabetes, they say that around 7,000 to 8,000 rupees per month is what they spend on diabetes medicine. And I think that is something, diabetes being very common in our country, we need a way to handle this. And these are something very interesting. And then this, I just thought of Ramayana when to save Lakshman, Lord Hanuman bought some, herbs from Himalayas. So the Himalayan flower petals inhibit SARS-CoV-2 infection. So this is something as a very good finding from IIT Mandi. These are all to be established. Hopefully we don't have a virus, but in the case that we have, we must have many Indian solutions that can handle it. Then there are a lot of drug discovery things that you see on the left-hand side bottom. IIT Palakkad is doing work on synthetic sequence-defined polymers for anti-cancer drugs. So these are some very nice molecular biology type of works. The next interesting thing that has come from the medical field are in this Aatmanirbhar assistive technologies for Divyang people. The one you see on the top is a 4D printed exoskeleton hand. 4D printing is 3D printing, but then it gets modified depending on impulses. So there's a fourth dimension to it. And then there's a 4D printed simple gripper mechanism, which is very important for the fingers. And then there is a Neobolt motorized wheelchair that you see, artificial feet that you see here. These are done by IIT Madras. These are actually now in the market, and it's very ruggedized, and this is very useful as an assistive technology. And what you also see is from IIT Kanpur, there is a project Hridyantra, which is for advanced left ventricular assist device. It's basically leading to an artificial heart. So these are all a lot of technologies and products. Again, as I re-emphasize the word product, that actually many of them are in market today and being usable and really providing the required assistance to the Divyang people. Now comes agriculture. So for the farmers, we need to do a lot of things. Farming has been our major economy. What we need ultimately, why do you earn? If you keep on asking, why do you earn? And finally, it will lead to filling up your 6-inch stomach properly with good food. So there are many efforts. One effort by IIT Madras is on Indian Rasa, which is a regenerative agriculture stack architecture. Basically, it is on the community natural farming. We are looking at a farm to kitchen type of a flow with sensor interventions and a lot of digital twins, which will be there to mimic these operations so that we could find out what is the most effective way of doing certain operations without actually going to the field, but working with the digital equivalent of that field. And there are a lot of effort done on the left-hand side, as you see, precision agriculture for small farmers at IIT Dharwad. This starts the entire cycle, starting from crop and soil health monitoring to early stage disease identification, data analytics for various crop-related aspects, variable rate technologies, development of efficient communication protocols, app-based solutions for precision agriculture, how much water you need to put, how much water you need to take, etc. Post-harvest preservation and economic impact assessment. All these things, it involves multidisciplinary, as you see. There is a management perspective, there's a finance perspective, there's a sensor perspective, there's a communication perspective, there are mechatronics perspective, whatnot, and computer science, and everything is there. So these are exciting fields which need to be interdisciplinary, and as our national education policy emphasizes on interdisciplinary education, this is something which is what you see as why we need that. Why is the NEP talking about it? These are some very important and powerful case studies to justify that we need to go into this interdisciplinary manner with a lot more effort. Agriculture and Water Technology Development Hub, AWAD, is from IIT proper, which is supported by the National Mission on Interdisciplinary CyberPhysical Systems by the Department of Science and Technology. So a lot of automation, IoT-based harvesting and post-harvesting irrigation. So there's a lot of things, at least these 3 efforts and many more efforts, which are basically looking at agriculture. Now, we have been talking about products, but then we need to now start about things that are helping you to make those products. So these are the basic building blocks. All those basic building blocks just imported, or we are doing something indigenous? Yes, we are doing something indigenous. And these are some examples. A large area additive manufacturing setup for 3D printing of rocket components is already set up at IIT Madras. And 3D metallic printing and additive manufacturing facility is now available at IIT Jodhpur. These are all some things which will enable you to build the products both effectively and quickly. Now, if you want to print on very thin sheets, etc., thin films, an Aatmanirbhar micro 3D printer is developed in-house at IIT Indore, where you can print small things on very thin films. This is on metal printing, that is on thin film printing. And these are also very, very important for if you want to manufacture certain strain gauges or micro heaters or interdigitated structures, right? Like what you are seeing there. These are all extremely important. What you see on a in a thermometer, printing that. Right? These are all micro 3D printers. Then there are a lot of effort going on building automation today. Buildings have to come fast. Building has to become green. Building has to really contribute to the net zero that India has promised, and we need to start moving. So one of the things is, when you look at a building and when you look at sustainability development goals, one thing that always comes is the air condition, right? So now there is a very nice, again from IIT Indore, there's smart windows that are done for power saving, wherein it controls the amount of heat that can go in by controlling the IR rays, and this has a potential application in power saving, in not just smart buildings, but also you can put it on the windows in vehicles, and this can also be very good for that. In addition, what you see on the right-hand side is completely a 3D printed house developed by IIT Madras. It's completely printed 3D, and this is where you submit a plan, and a 3D printer on site will print it from India. This is also something phenomenal, and these technologies, when nurtured, when big industries come and invest on these can grow to be potentially great products for the country. Now coming to space technology, as we move to the 6G, we are moving away from a pure terrestrial communication network to a satellite terrestrial hybrid network. Satellites are very important, and we are looking at 1 lakh satellites in the next 5 years, and these satellites will retire every 5 years, so we have to keep replenishing them again and again. So this is a continuous business, and if you want to look at 1 lakh satellites in the next 5 years, you have to look at 20,000 satellites in a year. We are almost looking at, for all the countries involved in space research, at least 2 satellites a day, right? And we want to do 2 satellites a day, we need something called rapid launch facilities. And what we are presenting, we have a very, very exciting company called Agnikul at IIT Madras. Very recently, they opened what they call as a rocket factory, which can print rockets. 2 things are necessary. If I want a rapid launch, I need a way by which I launch. So what this company is planning is that they will have 3 trucks. 1 truck as a launch pad, 1 truck as a power source, 1 truck as a control, and they position them at a particular place, press a button, rocket launches. These 3 trucks will move away. New set of 3 trucks will come for the next launch. If you are able to do that in this speed, then basically, this is a dream, and I'm sure we'll achieve that. Many people also say this is a dream, and they also say it's a daydreaming. Yes, at least I'm saying we are at least daydreaming, but this will come true, in my opinion. One of the things is that, if you want to keep this running, we need to produce rockets, then only we can send them up. So how do you produce rockets faster? That is where 3D printing comes in. Guys are able to you can visit IIT Madras Rocket Factory. You can see that within 72 hours, they can print 4 engines, right? So that is the capability of this. And if you put multiple machines, you can do multiples of 4. And these engines do not have any soldering or anything. So this is more stable, expected to be more stable. Initial test done on the ground. It's on field, but on the ground. Shows that they are extremely successful and robust, or very rugged in design. There's also a novel orientation independent and wickless heat spreader for space cooling applications. This has been selected for the unmanned flight of the Gaganyaan by HSFC ISRO. This is from IIT Patna. Mining is very important. Mining both, coal and also mining under sea, deep water dredging and mining that you are seeing. All these are very important. And there is a lot of automation and autonomous systems that are coming here, because mining becomes a very dangerous activity. It needs to be replaced by robo rather than human. So there are digitalization of mining process, specifically in a harsh and dynamic environment, that involves a lot of big data integration. Similarly, the pit-to-port optimization is also need to be done. What do you mean by pit-to-port? There is a pit, there's a coal pit. From there, you take the coal or whatever raw material and process everything and send it to the port for export. Right? This is what they look at. So lot of AI, as you see in the top, there is a lot of AI that is put in exploration, specifically locating near surface, deep-seated and concealed hidden ore bodies. Right? So there's a lot of data that is being generated, and an AI engine actually works on those data to find out where exactly the drill should happen to get these ore bodies. So these are all some very interesting disruptive technologies for mining. Then comes the communication, which is another basic building block, as I said. So 5G communications. And what has happened? IIT Madras, IIT Kanpur, IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, IIT Hyderabad, IIC Summit, all of them, along with industry partners, have made India's first 5G test bed. This group was also responsible for the 5G-I, which is the Indian standard of 5G, right? And then, so the entire Aatmanirbhar stack has been demonstrated today. So there's a 4-port MIMO. And so these are some of the test bed is today available, and it is open for the industry to come and test their equipment. We'll be shortly doing a campus trial, and that is where we demonstrate many of the 5G applications there and case studies. And we have everything on the standard, and we are just waiting for the the campus trials to start. And then there are a lot of things on the, one of the important thing about 5G and any other subsequent mechanism is the radio part, especially we need smart spectrum sensing, cognitive radio, and that type of a thing is happening along with the antenna designs in ISM Tampa, as you see top. With respect to mobility, we are still looking at trains, and now we want to look at trains which will go above 500 kilometers an hour. So the Hyperloop project at IIT Madras is one such, and we will be in the next 8 months will be in a position to make a demo of 550 meters in our Discovery campus. Other important research initiatives, these are very important from you can easily guess. We had a lot of technology development for high altitude is happening at IIT Jammu, which includes tunneling in the Himalayan region, electric vehicles, plastic waste management in the hills, and development of biodegradable alternatives. And then a lot of digital twins are being developed, specifically for preventive maintenance of machines, modeling of systems and simulation studies. This digital twin is the exact replica of the system that you have in the physical field. And anything that you want to do in the physical field, you can take the digital twin, do it. You can make the digital twin do and take the effect of it, and then see what is optimal, and then go back to the physical system. Because physical system, changing parameters, changing the way it works, these are all not going to be easy. So once for all, if you can do many things in your simulation and then go back to your actual hardware and superimpose what you have done, that becomes extremely easy. So that's where digital twins play a very important role. And then the last one here is also virtual reality and augmented reality. Today, as we are going for online courses, we need to have immersive skill training here. And there is also, and there are also a lot of tourism and other related things. The digital humanities that we talk of also need certain virtual reality and augmented reality. And very, very important for training on the medical applications, we need augmented and virtual reality. We need virtual labs and this. Then there are a lot of work for the Triforces that are happening. So Roper has this Center for Applied Research in Defense and Security. Then a lot of work on cyber security and blockchain technologies. IIT Kanpur is leading many of this effort. They already have a land record management system they put as in 6 districts of Karnataka. IIT Kanpur has led this effort. So these are very important for day-to-day living and very transparent systems. And then there are IoT-based systems, which are for monitoring of gas pipes, for monitoring of structures, right, and also landslide monitoring. Recently, IIT Mandi had issued a forewarning about a landslide much in advance, which has saved much of surely lives, and also people were very careful in their driving and other aspects. So this is something which has worked very recently. So these are IoT-based systems. And then there are a lot of these systems are becoming battery or solar powered, and they are portable also. Lot of effort is also happening on the waste to wealth, and IIT Madras, Mandi, Patna, and many others are doing. They are looking on how to convert garbage to wealth in terms of either energy or heat, etc., and also some organic, manure and waste management. In addition, lithium is now not available in India. So lithium ion plus other chemical compositions, can we do some range extension and cost reduction? This is happening in the battery technology. It's very, very important as we move towards EV, and a lot more of reason for storing power for usage at a later stage. These battery technologies become extremely important. And as lithium ion has become much more costlier and not available, people have also looked at some material that is available in the country, namely zinc. And zinc-based batteries are currently being explored towards Aatmanirbhar solutions. And safe, fire-free, as such, you see some news always on electric vehicles getting fired up. And there is some research done by IIT Bombay today. They are the winner of Uber E-Mobility Innovation Challenge 2021. It's a unique cell design that don't allow lithium dendrites and no fire fumes, no compromise on safety. There are some 15 air cells are ready for commercial use. 28 cells are nearing final completion. There's a startup company already formed at IITB. They are looking at this. Company name is Walters. So these all are some very interesting technologies that cover the 3 verticals I have talked, 4 verticals on the medical science, of course, and then on the emerging areas and the basic building blocks and the application areas. And so as a country, that's very tip of the iceberg. I've just taken some examples to fit even our time frame of 1 hour. I could talk for multiple hours on many of these technologies as we proceed. But this gives us a confidence that India is, as a country, is in the right track towards doing research and development of product level research, not just research that goes just for publishing papers and patents, but really translating them into products across multiple institutions. And that gives us a lot of confidence that our Aatmanirbhar team dream in 2047 will be a reality and not a dream. With these words, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and now I open up for questions. Thank you. Krishnamurthy sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this excellent presentation. I must say, I am sort of speechless looking at the diverse areas and the advanced topics that are being researched and applications developed, because somebody made an observation, technology in itself without applications is not making much sense. But I think you already demonstrated the number of applications and domains of applications where work is being done already. And I'm familiar with some of them, like the land records that's being created in Karnataka, a very successful initiative of an IIT developed solution getting deployed now in the state of Karnataka. I will not take much time because there are many questions. I don't think I'll have time for all the questions, but we will take a few of them at least. The first one is, in which level a multidisciplinary degree is recommended, undergrad or grad or postgraduate, say 4 years? What would be the coverage of, say, 3 disciplines, that is 40-30-30 curriculum or some other, is it recommended that one should specialize in one core before going multidisciplinary? This is about the multidisciplinary research and course that you talked about earlier, sir.
You want me to answer this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sure. See, so let me just tell you. See, the whole thing of multidisciplinary comes up. I get the question. Today when you say I am an engineer, right? I am a computer scientist makes no sense. You say I'm an engineer with a good understanding of not only computer science, but fields that use computer science. Unless we do that, the dream of getting a product will never come as a reality. That is very, very important, and that's what we are seeing here. The bigger other issue is that at the 10th standard, the kid is asked whether they want to do commerce or science. What they know about, none. The next question is at 12th standard, because of their rank or their marks they obtained, which I call it as karma, because of their karma, they are now forced on to go and do an engineering course. So why do I do this course? Why do I do it at that institute? Nobody has any clue. So only 2 years down the line, these people understand that, okay, what they are fit for. Many students do say, I should not have done computer science, I should have done electronics or physics or whatever. It happens even in IITs after they get what you may initially think as a coveted computer science seat, but nevertheless, they understand that they would have done much better in another field. So these interdisciplinary courses that we are saying will actually help the person to go and switch the field as long as there will be a core degree, BTech degree, but then these interdisciplinary courses will kindle the interest of these guys in the other disciplines also, and they can use their parent discipline for doing something. So I am interested in physics, I am interested in quantum physics. I can use the notion of quantum computing that I get from a computer science curriculum to basically model my devices that I get through quantum physics. So this interdisciplinary courses with a core discipline makes them much more versatile in understanding and applying their parent area onto a real system building. And they now know what it means to exist or coexist in a multidisciplinary framework. And that is basically the biggest benefit that we get. And when we look at some of the job opportunities, people also today look at people who can do a complete stack, people who have a holistic knowledge. When you work on a particular segment, there is a question asked, what will happen to the other segment? If you don't understand, for example, even within computer science, if I work on architecture without understanding how the operating system is using the architecture, you land up with problems. Meltdown and Spectre are two important cyber attacks that happened because of a side channel that came in the architectural design, right? And because this architecture people never assumed that that type of a thing is possible at an operating system or a compiler end. Okay, so these are, this is from an employment perspective, people are also looking at a holistic experience with a specialization, a breadth and a depth is what is necessity today if you really want to establish. And multidisciplinary courses provide you that opportunity. I think I've answered that question.
I think definitely it answered. And let me go back to my engineering days. When we were taught in the first year survey, and we were all pulling our ears, trying to understand why are electronics and communication engineers being taught survey. Today, when somebody says, I'm going to erect the antenna, the first question we ask is, have you done the survey of the site, right? So multidisciplinary understanding, even from a practical engineering application point of view, I think the relevance cannot be understated. The next question is on if 70% energy still comes from fossil fuel and only 30% is from renewable energy, where does EV advantage lie?
The 70% energy will now become much lesser with not just solar, but we are also progressing on the nuclear energy. I think over a period of time, this will come. Of course, if it is coal, then we are generating equal carbon. But if it is more of the renewable energy sources, I think it is going to be more of a which is more leading to a net zero carbon. So the 70%, yes, it comes from fossil fuel of today, but I'm sure this is not going to be the case down the line. So that's the belief. And so if I'm going to get a lot of energy, which is not from fossil fuel, the world will certainly find out when. Now, we learned how to exist with Corona, right? So, and we have been doing business. So I think the same thing will happen when the fossil fuels are going on. These wars, basically, I also look at these wars as an opportunity where, you know, your petrol goes high and people start looking at other options, right? So nature has its own equation, right? And which we don't understand and which we cannot understand, in my opinion. So I think that is the way. And if those energy is available that day, do you have the technology, right? And that's very important. See, I want to draw a parallel to this same thing. Professor Egin Arena used to say, our senior professor at IIT Madras, in the 80s, they said, oh, you need 1 megabyte of memory for your speech. So it is all not feasible. And they cancelled all the, you know, nobody, no review committee gave sanction for any speech research. Today, I can store on this mobile phone 32 gigabytes or 128 gigabytes of, I could have at least 4 gigabytes of RAM in this phone, right? And today, I don't have speech algorithms, right? All that I'm using a car, my thing is a foreign product. My speech recognition that I use for hands-free in a car, simple application. It's a foreign product. So the point is, just because technology is not available, you should, if you are going to stop the other part, then when technology becomes available, then you will not have anything to use the technology, then you start importing. I think the speech example is a very important lesson which every review committee in this country has to learn, right? And how to encourage something futuristic. I think this is also my answer to that question by Mr. George Burkis. That let us assume that technology is that energy is going, non-fossil fuel energy is going to be available, and let us proceed in that direction.
Yeah, I can only add to that. So, you know, the lithium ion as a battery solution for electric vehicles hits a roadblock because we don't have lithium source in the country. But the very fact that the research has started already on zinc as an alternative, probably in a few years down the line, we don't have to worry about lithium being available only in China. We may have our own solutions available to us to go forward with our own electric vehicle programs. The last question, I think we are almost end of time, but I will take this because it's related to teaching and development of basic technical. Where does teaching and development of basic technical skills fit in the Aatmanirbhar context? Example, metal joining, glass making, chemistry, biology, lab operations, machine operations, etc. And there is a related question earlier as to what will happen to the conventional mechanical workshops. So I think the teaching and research in the basic skills and, you know, how things are being done today, how will they transform in the digital era or digital world is, I think, the summary of the question.
Yeah. So the point is today we need to build human capacity in the areas of, say, 3D printing, etc. So let me give this stack. So we take 3D printing for an example. Today, I need to know 3D printing because I want to print rocket engines in 72 hours, right? Rocket engine, if you actually manufacture without 3D printing, they have something like 3,000 soldering points, and each point is a failure point, right? You know, so the robustness that you get with 3D printing is there. So you need to have an education that will actually enable this. So I've talked about certain basic building blocks, and those building blocks are now to be nurtured. And the point that people should have now have an avenue by which they could explore things. People started doing 3D printing for, you know, printing some plastic devices, right? So, but then how it translated today to building a house, to build a rocket engine. So these are two very important major contributions, right? And so these things have come out very well. Of course, the things that you do at the lathe, at the mechanical workshop will continue, but then you need a different dimension of manufacturing also to be added at a very young age so that the young brain starts thinking in that direction. So this is where these trainings will fit into the Aatmanirbhar stack, in my opinion.
Yes, sir. So I think before we wrap up, as a moderator, I would like to ask one question. where do you think the industry should start working with the institutes of research, all the IITs, etc.? Because let me take one of the photographs that you published in the presentation, the 3D printed house. I think the industry should be able to remove all the slums in the country if they adopt that. And Dharavi should have a completely different look if the 3D printed house becomes a reality very soon, is it not? So where do you think the industry can start working with you early enough, middle stage or end stage? That will be a good guiding point. That's my question, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I told you, right, the industry should now have Aatmavishwas on us. Indian industry so far has been very adept in taking out proven products and making the best use of it. We have been very successful on that, and that's how we have grown. Now, from that mode, if you need to become slightly more explorative, saying, okay, these guys will deliver. And some risk has to be taken by the Indian industry where, okay, I will come, let us sit together, let us take some 2-3 projects and see how your 3D printing works. That type of an explorative mindset wherein they put some money as a risk factor need to come. If 3D printed house, as you've taken a right example, it's also easy for me to answer. Thanks, Krishnamurthy. You make my life easy. As always, if I really want to make this 3D printing much more cost effective, if I build one house at one place, it's not going to be cost effective. As you really said about slum clearance, if I'm going to have a slum clearance that is going to be done using 3D printing, then the cost per house or cost per square feet will reduce significantly. Scale, as in VLSI, I know you have been author of many chips, scale and volume really fix the final price. And the final price is one that matters for the success of the technology. I might have a very great processor, but if it costs 1 million a piece, nobody even bothers about it. So this is where the major industry, the end consumers, must put some amount of effort here. Of course, the government is doing its might. For example, Indian Semiconductor Mission, we have $10 billion. We expect the industry to put another $90 billion. So that, $100 billion is at least necessary to show an impact in this. So one step the government gets out with a lot of PLIs and other things. So there are a lot of incentives that come. But then the confidence and some amount of risk based on that confidence, if the Indian industry can come forward and put on us, certainly we can do great things together, which will be a win-win for us. People, at the initial stages, there may be certain price escalations, but over a period of time, this pricing will come down. And that is really what we need to aspect.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the answers with crystal clear clarity. And for the benefit of all those who are present here, I also would like to say from India Electronics and Semiconductor Association point of view, we are going to hold a mega event on October 12 and 13 in Bangalore, the Vision Summit and the India Embedded Electronics Show. And we are going to create a pavilion exclusively for products under development, technologies and products under development in the Indian institutes, educational institutes. So that's going to be a big pavilion where you will probably get to see some of these in live in demo. So I'll start working with this. And it's an early announcement I'm making today because the right audience is there. And you will start seeing flyers and communication coming out pretty soon. I will pass the mic back to Ashok and Dr. Sushila.
Thank you very much, Krishnamurthy. That was, we certainly look forward to, since it's, especially because it's in Bangalore, we certainly look forward to the event. I'm going to thank you, Professor Kamakoti. This was, as always, a very thrilling presentation from you. Before I want to go over a few takeaways from this, key takeaways from this webinar. But before I do that, I just want to say that we at the IITACB can also probably help play a role in terms of bringing together the industry as well as the IITs. We could also help play a bit of a role of pulling all of this together. We've done it with, interestingly, Professor Kamakoti, a project that we are working with IIT Dharwad and some of the other IITs as well on speech, voice to voice. So you'll be very happy to hear that.
Yes.
Okay, so a quick set of takeaways from today's talk. Professor Kamakoti started by defining what an Aatmanirbhar nation requires, which is self-sufficiency in areas that impact our daily life, but also strategic areas like defense and space. They should enable, I mean, we should be able to deal with disasters, and especially with all of the global warming and climate change around us, that becomes even more stark as the days go by. And also to be able to deal with contingencies, especially in a globalized world where something that happens in some country far away impacts everybody everywhere anyhow. And we will need many large-scale systems as we go along to deal with all of this. The Arogya Setu was an example that Professor Kamakoti talked through in a fair bit of detail, and a few things that stood out were that it was an example of various technologies that made it possible for 30 people in less than a month to put together something like this at scale. But most important was the fact that it was interdisciplinary in nature, both in terms of the way of thinking and the way of working. And this theme of interdisciplinary came in many, many ways through the talk today. The lesson from various large-scale implementations, Professor Kamakoti called it university in diversity, which is of course the essence of Indianness. And he defined this as a single window interdisciplinary platform, and which would address everything that goes from all the way from sensor manufacturing to control systems to decision support systems and so on. He picked up a lot of focus areas such as health, agriculture, etc., space, etc. I'm not going to, obviously, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but but a few points that stood out again. In health, the importance of the idea of physician scientists, and the fact that medical science research and teaching must become part of the IITs. India needs to make its own medical devices. Almost everything is fully imported today. So again, when we think about the concept of Aatmanirbhar, that obviously stands big. India, of course, is the home to NCDs, non-communicable diseases, and obviously we need our solutions that address this, whether in terms of prevention or treatment and so on. And then we heard a lot about how the IITs are rising to these challenges that are unique to India. And three basic points here. One, interdisciplinary courses at all levels, UG, PG, as well as PhD level. The second point was unique partnerships in courses such as the IIT and IIM Indore coming together, in technology development and in manufacturing and scaling. The third point was disruptive technologies and what is happening in the different IITs together with industry partners. And some of the wonderful areas of research that is taking place in the various IITs. We've had a few presentations from some of the IITs, like Mining 4.0, for example. We had a whole webinar on that. But things like diabetes, medication, Ayurtech, assistive technologies, smart windows, the Hyperloop, digital twins, high altitude technologies, etc., waste to wealth, and battery technologies. And these were some, these are all areas where there is a lot of work happening today in the IITs, and something that all of us should feel very proud about. These, at the end of the webinar for me, what stood out was these are really, really exciting times. And of course, you know, for Aatmanirbhar to become a reality, all of us need to participate in whatever way we can, given that there is so much of research happening on the technology side, but there is still much work to be done in taking these and converting them into products and applications. For sure, youngsters listening today would have found this talk really, really inspiring. And I hope they will consider taking on many large challenges that are important to India. So I just want to end up by saying thank you to Professor Kamakoti. It's always energizing listening to you. I've heard so many of your lectures. Every one of them has been absolutely energizing. We hope that we can take some of these technologies that you highlighted today and deep dive into them in subsequent webinars. Krishnamurti, thank you so much for agreeing to moderate this discussion today and sharing your views and expertise with us through today. So with that, thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening in. This talk will be available on the IITACB YouTube channel come Monday. So please do look for it. And all our talks are there on the IITACB YouTube channel. With that, once again, thank you very much and good night.